When you look at the anatomy of political violence in a polarized America, we can look at this from disagreement to dehumanization and the rise of effective polarization. Now, the assassination of Charlie Kirk cannot be understood as an isolated act of a disturbed individual. It is rather the lethal culmination of broader societal trends that have made political violence in the United States more frequent and more accepted than at any time in recent history. A key concept for understanding this dangerous shift is effective polarization. Unlike traditional ideological polarization, which involves disagreement over policies, effective polarization is the visceral, emotional animosity and distrust that partisans feel towards one another. Research indicates that while most American voters are not extremely polarized on the specifics of this policy, they are intensely polarized on an emotional level. This animosity is fueled by profound misperceptions about the demographic makeup, beliefs, and intentions of the opposing party. The us versus them mentality transforms political opponents from fellow citizens with differing views into existential threat to the nation's well being. This process of dehumanization removes the social and psychological barriers that normally inhibit violence, making it easier for some aggression to be seen as legitimate and even necessary as a political tool. Now, let's take a look at what's known as the permission structure, how rhetoric and media fueled this radicalization. Now, in such a deeply polarized environment, the information ecosystem can create what experts call a permission structure for violence. This structure is built and reinforced by two primary forces: the incendiary rhetoric of political leaders and a fragmented partisan media landscape. Now, a range of studies suggests that while there may not be a direct, legally provable line from a specific speech to a specific act of violence, the hostile rhetoric of and political leaders makes violence more likely, and gives it direction. It also makes it seem more legitimate. When leaders use dehumanizing language and they frame political contests as apocalyptic battles for the nation's soul and vilify entire groups of people, they can motivate aggressive or volatile individuals to translate those words into action. Once again, I bring up the case in point of Brian Kilmeade, who was a reporter that I brought up at the top of the show. He was a reporter at Fox who was let go because he made comments about killing the mentally ill homeless, that they would be better off, and other rhetoric to that nature, and he was dismissed from Fox News for that. And now, just a few days later, of course, we now know that there were two mass shootings at homeless encampments in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Once again, there is a real tough time when it comes to linking the direct statements by Brian Kilmeade to these mass acts of violence against the homeless. But again, it is something that comes in under the permissive structure and what we call, the permissive structure for violence. Now, as I was saying there, that when leaders are using dehumanizing language and frame political contests as the apocalyptic battles, this is what we see, where some individuals who are already at risk of taking action and suffer, generally, not always, but generally, they suffer from severe mental health issues as well. But this rhetoric is amplified and disseminated through a media environment that itself is a driver of polarization. Partisan cable news networks have been described as birthing centers for polarizing rhetoric, creating a cycle where they cater to a polarized audience with outrage driven content, which in turn deepens the audience's polarization. Social media platforms accelerate this process, creating echo chambers and filter bubbles where algorithms feed users content that confirms their existing biases, amplifies extremist ideas, and spreads misinformation and conspiracy theories. This online environment has also charged the nature of violent extremism itself and changed it. The focus on organized groups has obscured a more pervasive trend, which is the ungrouping of political violence, where individuals like Tyler Robinson self radicalize through online engagement. White supremacist ideas, anti fascist ideologies, and conspiracy theories spread through a slippery language of memes and jokes, normalizing radical beliefs and blurring the line between online posturing and real world violence.